Hey everybody, how you doing? Well, there's only 40 games left. Welcome to PHLY Flyers Postgame presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. My name's Bill Matz. That's Steve Jaco joining me here for postgame. Charlie O'Connor's down at the Wells Fargo Center. He will join us at some point tonight. Steve, 2025 has not been kind to the Flyers thus far. 0-3-1 since the calendar turned over. They lose to the Stars 4-1. And honestly, it wasn't that close. The first 40 minutes of this game, the Flyers looked like not an NHL team. Dallas is very good. We talked about that. They are a cup contender. A lot of good players, a mix of veteran and young talent. They talked about their success drafting during the broadcast tonight. Certainly. They're better than the Flyers.
Sure.
But so are the Toronto Maple Leafs. Perfect. Exactly. Like, there's a lot of teams that are just better than the Flyers, but they go out and put up a good fight against them.
Right.
So
they
I guess
put up a very good fight against the Maple Leafs.
Listen, they've lost a lot of games because of goaltending, and that's the way it's gone for them a lot. And so, yeah, man, we talked pregame. The skaters have looked pretty good lately, and the goaltending has just really let them down, whether it's a soft goal here or there or just being blown out. Like, that's how it's happened, despite, the 18 guys in front of them being all right. That wasn't the case tonight. 4-1 isn't close to how bad I thought this game was, especially the first two periods. So my question to get started is, do you think this is just a case of Stars are so much better, was bound to happen, or maybe this is kind of a sign of things to come in the second half? This is what we've been talking about for a couple of weeks. How long can we go, yeah, but the guys in front of them are playing well, and they just got to keep plugging along. Eventually, something's going to give. It kind of felt like that tonight.
Sure did, pal. That's a classic, a little from column A, a little from column B situation right there. Because it definitely was both situations, right? Like, the Stars are a better hockey team than the Philadelphia Flyers. There's just no doubt about it. But also, it does feel like a sign of things to come. Like, the wheels are falling off of this wagon. And if they make further moves at the deadline or before the deadline, Ristolainen's name's being thrown out there a lot, and Ristolainen, which is crazy to think about, has been one of their best defensemen this season. So, it's a lot like last year with Sean Walker, right? Sean Walker was one of the main reasons this team was in contention for the first half last year. And then once they traded him, along with some other factors, the wheels completely fell off the wagon. And I'm wondering if something similar is going to happen this year. And frankly, that's probably better for the Flyers. It sucks to think about. You never want to root for your hockey team to lose, but this team needs as much help and needs as much talent as they can get. And man, those lotto balls look really good right now.
They do. And that's one way to look at it. I know, a lot of people, there's a lot of discourse on social media. Some people disappointed, other people what are we mad about? Isn't this what we wanted, for them to be bad so that they can get good players in the draft? And the answer to that is yes. And like you said, ultimately, this could end up being good for them.
Yeah. But I will say this. It stinks to watch, though.
It stinks to watch. And me and Charlie, we say all the time, it's selfish of us, but it's our job to watch all 82 games. I'd like to be entertained. And tonight was the opposite of entertaining. And when you state as an organization, we're not going to do the tank thing, we're going to try to be competitive. Are we going to make moves to get into that final wild card and, lose in 6? No, that's not their goal. But they want these young players that they're trying to develop internally playing meaningful games in February, March, April, coming down to the wire like it did last season. I don't know, man. Yes, the East is jumbled up still. And yeah, they're 2 points out of last in the East. And they're also, I think, 4 or 5 points out of a playoff spot. It's not as if the wheels have completely come off, but it kind of looks like they might.
Just look at the lines. The lines are a complete mess right now. It looks like, I know that this is not the case, and I know John Tortorella would kick me in the face much like a horse or something like that if I said this to him in person. But like the lines look just like they were just thrown together at random. Like an AI just like
I was gonna say ChatGPT made the lines.
ChatGPT made the lines. Like they don't make any sense. And that speaks to this team's lack of identity. This team does not have an identity. This is not a team that really knows what it is. You know, in the first few games of the season, you could say Michkov was their identity because he was crushing it. And it's not to say that he's necessarily playing bad right now. I've heard some of the good fancy stats in his favor, but he's not scoring goals right now. And the only people who really are scoring goals, and the exception is tonight, of course, is that Cates, Forrester, Brink line. Morgan Frost with your only goal tonight. Which
that's the
just as we all drew it up.
You can't determine when you score. You score in the NHL. Good for you, man. Any goal, like Alex Ovechkin, every single goal, like good job. Even though he's the greatest of all time, it's really tough to do. But I always find things like that insulting. Like, oh yeah, it's 3-0, and that's. I thought, okay, they're showing some signs of life here in the third. But we talked about it watching the game. That's what happens in every 3-0 NHL game every night. It's a 1-goal league. That's why the line of every game is a goal and a half. Like 98% of games, if not more, like to find a 2.5 goal line is like Tampa during their season where they didn't lose up against like, oh, for some reason they're playing an AHL team tonight. Like that's a 2.5 goal line.
The Flyers?
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. And it's, I guess, sure, like you made the note, they outshot the Stars tonight.
Amazing. Like I remember I looked up
when did these shots occur?
In the second period, I looked up and I was like, why
is it even?
Yeah, it was even. And the entire second period, it felt like the Stars had the Flyers pinned in their own zone. It felt like the Stars had a million chances. It felt like that game could have been 7-0 in the middle of the second period, is how bad it was going. And when I looked up and saw that, I think at that point, the Stars were only up 2-0. Eventually would go up 3. And the shots were almost even, was just mind-numbing to me. And it clearly the Stars were going for quality over quantity, unlike the Flyers in that regard.
And like you see what like a shift where there's guys out there for I think it was like 2.5, 3+ minutes, and Sam Ersson makes a couple of saves. Like
my personal favorite, Owen Tippett loses his stick, his stick breaks, and Owen Tippett's just kind of standing around, like trying to kick at the puck here and there. And what are you doing, bud? I love you, Tipper, but just. At that point, you're not helping anybody. Just get to the bench, change or get a stick. Let them be shorthanded for a second because you're not doing anything. It's always a tough decision for me, especially in the second period. Like I think Scott Laughton went and got a stick at some point earlier in the season when that happened, and he comes back and they'd already worked the puck down and scored. Like I get not wanting to just fly the defensive zone, but what are you really going to do without a stick? I don't know. And maybe if there's a turnover, you get lucky, you're already in the neutral zone and you're off on a break. It's a tough decision, but you see that happen. And yeah, maybe they only had 2 shots on that possession, but they're in you have no chance to score when you're 200 feet away. They're stuck out there for minutes at a time with absolutely no chance of getting anything going the other way. It's exhausting.
That's exhausting. The team. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this goes. Looking at the remaining schedule and just the 15 games before the 4 Nations break. You look at this remaining schedule, and yeah, they have Anaheim Saturday. Come on out.
Come on out.
It's going to be fun.
Boo,
hopefully, now this is like a cliche Eagles, if they only beat the Cowboys, if they only win 2 games this year, like I need the Flyers to show up on Saturday.
Yes.
And if that's the only game they win for the second half of the season, I'm fine with it.
I need a blowout. I need a Michkov goal. I need all that stuff.
Like you look at this upcoming schedule that they have, just leading into what would be the All-Star break, but it's like 2 weeks for the 4 Nations. Like Florida coming up. They have Columbus. And yeah, you don't think Columbus is very good. They won tonight. They're in a playoff spot right now.
They're in a playoff spot. I don't know who they have on their team, but they're in a playoff spot.
They're playing over there. They're kind of like this year's Flyers from last year where it's like, I don't think they're good, but they're just kind of doing it right now.
Yeah, and speaking in the self-interest of the Flyers, go do your thing, Columbus. And then, go out, compete for that last playoff spot. And let us get all the lottery balls.
You see
in there.
Jersey a few times in there. They have the Avs. They have the Caps. The Penguins are in there who've been better recently. Detroit's been better recently. The Rangers aren't very good, but they're They have more good players than the Flyers. Like,
sure do,
this
pal.
is a really tough schedule coming up, and it doesn't really get much easier when they come back from the break.
Our favorite, the Islanders, twice.
Yeah.
We love watching Flyers Islanders games. Oh, my
God. That's...
one of the most, like... I think if you wanted to torture me, like, if I was in hell, you'd make me watch
Flyers
only games against the Islanders. Yeah.
Like, this has the chance to really go off the rails even quicker than it did last season. Like, there were... And it's kind of the same thing because part of this is, I don't think Ersson was actually that bad tonight, but goaltending overall, we talked about it in pregame. We've been talking about it for months. It's the worst in the league. It's horrible. It's historically bad. It's the worst team save percentage in 30 years if it finishes out this way.
Sure looks like it's going to.
Yeah, I don't see why it would get better, honestly. This could turn into a bottom 5 lottery team. It really could. It seems to be trending. It's not trending up. Like, there has to be a dramatic turnaround because we watch them. Like I said, we watch them as, okay, they're not playing that bad. It's just the goaltending. If they have more efforts like this, it's going to go off the rails.
It was a horrible game. The first 2 periods were just abysmal. Honestly, the smartest thing the Flyers did tonight was not hand out those glow bracelets like they did on previous Ed Snider like commemorative nights or whatever, because we all
the Capitals
remember.
Playoff game,
maybe some of the younger people might not remember. It was Capitals and the Penguins. It happened twice.
Did it?
Yeah, I was at the second one. I was at the Penguins one, and it got ugly real quick because that was a terrible game. But yeah, people chucked those bracelets, and there were all these people going, "This is a disgrace. What would Mr. Snider think?" And you know what? Just to have some fun tonight, I'm going to go off on one of those rants right now about tonight's effort. Like, Mr. Snider would just be so disappointed in you boys. Why would you do this on his night? A terrible effort, and you should all feel ashamed and never get a good night's rest again.
And that's they do it's Ed Snider Legacy Night, and they bring back Hartnell and Timonen, their ambassadors. They're part of the board for Snider Youth Hockey, something like that.
They released Paul Holmgren from his prison in the Wells Fargo Center. There's
so few guys on the team who were even here when Ed Snider was alive, and clearly, it's a couple years in the league for Laughton, a couple years in the league for Coots. Is there even anyone else? Sanheim was here?
Maybe?
No, he drafted him in 2014. Is he even on that team in 2016?
Yeah, Coots and...
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a shame when they do this stuff, and that's the effort, but that's what happens tonight.
This isn't a good hockey. I mean, like, there are components of a good hockey team, but overall, this isn't a good hockey team. And look, you saw it tonight. Like, you couldn't see 2 more disparate teams than what you saw with the Dallas Stars and the Philadelphia Flyers tonight. Like, the Dallas Stars looked like a good hockey team that just took care of business. One of the things that stood out to me most tonight, Bill, was at the end of the game when the Flyers pulled the goalie with, what was it, 4 minutes left?
Or something?
Yeah, it was about 4 minutes or something. And that's, okay, the Flyers are going to put the full court press on. They're going to try and get a goal. And Dallas just kept them in the perimeter.
Yep.
Nothing on the inside at all. And that's one of the glaring problems with this team is they don't have big bodies. They don't have a big center to really penetrate in there and make some presence in front of the net. Actually, Morgan Frost,
net front presence.
Morgan Frost, that's how he scored his goal, was being a net front presence. And
nice play, box out. Off the board.
It was actually pretty hilarious because he was basically draped by the defenseman, and he's just like, all right, I'm going to screen the goalie. But it worked. It did work, but they could desperately use a big body to get in there and create some room. And that's the problem. All their talented players are wingers right now.
Yeah.
And that's why this team, it is in their best. Again, you don't advocate for tanking. Danny Briere will never, ever, Keith Jones will never, ever say that they are going to outright tank. But, this team's just not good enough to compete. So even if they don't intend to tank, they're probably going to tank.
They're not intending to tank, but like John Tortorella said the other day, the Carter Hart situation kind of threw the goalies into flux. And coming into the year, John Tortorella said the goalies scare the hell out of me. I don't know what to expect. Carter Hart played his last game here. I think it was January 20th a year ago. Danny Briere, if he actually wanted to address the goalie situation, so you're not in a position where, it went bad because we didn't know what to expect from these goalies, could have done something. It's like maybe it's not their intention to tank, but it's also we're not going to stop the bleeding. We haven't seen any interest in doing that.
No.
And they shouldn't.
No,
you shouldn't
they
spend
shouldn't.
any assets on a guy who's going to give you a little bit better of a chance, because why? You're just going to end up drafting 11th again.
Like, let's bring Martin Jones back.
For what reason, really? It's
it
very
doesn't make
clear
sense.
that this team is not very good.
Yeah.
We got to take a quick break, and I got to tell you about our friends at Shady Rays. There couldn't be a better time. Maybe you should be watching the Flyers with some rose-colored Shady Rays or something. Just maybe block your vision a little, give you a little bit brighter of what you're seeing. Listen, I'm a big fan of Shady Rays. I've been telling you about them for over a year now, how they are my favorite sunglasses on the market. And I'm not alone. They've been rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. They have durable frames, crystal clear optics. Sometimes polarized glasses can give that weird glare, especially maybe you're in the car looking at the nav screen or something. Doesn't happen with Shady Rays for me. My wife hates polarized glasses most of the time. Big fan of Shady Rays. I think you will be too. And exclusively for our listeners, you want to give it a shot, you should, because Shady Rays giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com. Use code PHLY for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. While we're here, that Cutter game on Saturday, it's going to be a fun atmosphere. I can't promise you the team's going to show up, because after tonight, all bets are off. But you can show up, and you can do it with Game Time. That's how you can get in. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't waste time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best value. And you have all the other features as well: the all-in pricing, the seat view, the low price guarantee, and the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Flyers could have used a little Game Time speech wake-up call. Like, it is game time, boys. Time to get going.
Time to wake up, boys.
But now, with this kind of coming unglued at the moment, I'm just kind of looking at, they could go into a slide to become a top 5 lottery team. It's not out of the realm of possibility. We saw them really slide last year, and that was with, they built up a lot more points in the standings in the first half of the season than they did this year.
It was a shock when they missed the play. Like, they really shouldn't have missed the playoffs. They were in it until
the last day.
They had a cupcake schedule in March, too.
Despite how bad they were down the stretch, they could have gotten in the last couple of days, and they just didn't. I am thinking now kind of about the future. Things are clearly trending down. Do you think they're contemplating trades aren't going to happen that far ahead of the trade deadline? Especially a guy like Risto, where he's in the 4 nations. I think players playing in the 4 nations, teams are going to be afraid to trade for them before that's over, because they don't want an Olympic sort of injury, and we don't have that guy anymore. Great, we traded a first-round pick for a dude who's never going to play for us. I don't expect that to happen, but a roster shakeup, bringing back Emil Andrae, who's got 4 points in 5 games, his last 5 games for the Phantoms. Get Lycksell into a game. He's just sitting there. I don't even care who comes out. I'd rather it not be Michkov, but maybe he needs a break. Someone else can give you a spark. Tony Dick, man. Anthony Richard was good for this team when he played in November. He's got 6 goals, 16 points in 14 AHL games. He's got 6 points in 7 NHL games when he was up in November. And Flyers are 4-2-1 in those games. Maybe do something along those lines, because they're throwing the same lineup out there every night. For a little while, it was, it makes sense. They're not playing that bad. It's just the goaltending, but it was always going to get to this point of the players give way too. I just feel like they need a little something, not to send them on a playoff run or get them back into, but just to find more information about other guys, because we know about most of these players. It's an evaluation time. That's what they're doing. They're developing internally. They're not making a ton of moves yet. Hopefully they will at some point. But I was just doing a little head count during the game, because it wasn't really worth watching. 13 players have been here for at least part of the 3 seasons, all 3 seasons Torts has been the coach. That includes Coots. He wasn't on the ice, but he was around. 12 if you don't want to include him. There are just some dudes here that we have the information about. Rasmus Ristolainen. Again, I don't think he's getting traded before Four Nations. Trades happen around the deadline.
And let's not forget, the trade deadline's not for two more months.
It's not till March 7th. Yeah, like we have 2 months before this happens.
2 months,
but like
folks.
Risto, I think he's going to get traded. I hope. That is what it is. He's been one of their best defensemen this season. It is kind of like the Sean Walker situation now where, yeah, we're going to get worse maybe.
Chuck Fletcher was just playing the long game there, Bill.
But Joel Farabee. We went over this a little bit yesterday in our our mid-season review with Kelly and Charlie, Steve. Final 34 games of last season. 5 goals, 5 assists. 6 goals, 8 assists through now 42 games this season. That's a 76-game sample size for a player who's going to turn 25 in about a month and a half. He's not on a 30-point pace over those 76 games. I wanted Joel Farabee to work out, and early in his career, it really seemed like they found something, a mid-round pick who maybe should have gone a little higher. We have the information about Joel Farabee. He's in the middle of his prime right now. He's about to turn 25. What the hell are we playing Joel Farabee every night for? Honestly, they're giving him every opportunity. Yeah, they've demoted him to the 4th line, but he's on the power play. They've put him on the penalty kill to try to give him a little more opportunity. He's not doing a damn thing. Like, why is Joel Farabee still here? Why do we need to play him every single night?
You know, we were talking about Frost a little bit earlier tonight, and you're saying, like, what does Frost do well? And I'm asking the same question about Farabee right now. And it's such a bummer because the first couple of years I had the same hope as you, where I'm like, this is a really good player. I'm very happy about this. And I always think about when Claude Giroux got traded and he said, the guy to watch out for in this roster is Joel Farabee.
Yeah.
And
that's
a hell of an endorsement right there from, you know, a Flyers legend.
A top 5 minimum Flyer of all time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I haven't seen anything, like no sparks. And like you're talking about like not even a 30-point pace over
like
that
26,
sample size.
I think.
Michkov. 20-year-old Michkov
has that many points.
Yeah, he has almost 30 points. It just like, you know, he's 20 years old. So he's one of those guys I've been waiting for him to show something, waiting for him to do something special. And I don't know if it's the Tortorella mix or what, but it's just not working out. Real change of scenery guy. I think it would be in the best interest for both parties to move on.
Watching the way this thing is unfolding, it's, well, maybe Joel Farabee is going to be a guy who could really benefit from a center. Who the hell couldn't? Who the hell on this roster, all these wingers that they have, Noah Cates is their best center right now. Who wouldn't benefit? But so too would Tyson Forster. So too would Matvei Michkov.
Matvei Michkov would feast with the center. Travis
Konechny's centers this year have been Sean Couturier and Ryan Poehling, who are both black holes of offense. He's over a point a game, and he's on a 40-goal pace. Like, I'm tired of hearing, oh, well, maybe in this situation. Not this situation. If he works out somewhere else, good for him. Like, this is not a Patrick Sharp thing or a Justin Williams thing where we didn't give him enough of a chance. He's 25 and he's done nothing. For now a full season. This is a 76-game sample size. That's a whole season. What is the point of this? And again, trades probably just aren't going to happen for a few months. He might be a guy, especially with term left on his deal. It's the summer. But, like, I don't know, man. Let's see Lycksell. Let's see Samu Tuilamala. Let's see somebody else because we know who he is. Those guys might not be any good either. But let's find out about them too. Sure. We're wasting time playing some of these guys.
And like, this might also be just selfish thoughts from people who have to talk about this team every week, but it would be, I just need something at this point, a spark, because it is, you're right. It's the same old lineup every night. Guys just not doing stuff. And I do want to see some variety. I want to see some guys in there. And Lycksell, for instance, has been crushing it down in the AHL. Yeah. I'd love to see him bring some pepper to the Flyers.
It's like a point a game for the Phantoms.
Yeah.
Is he a top 6 forward? I doubt it. But you know who isn't either? Most of the guys on this team.
Yeah.
The dudes they're putting out there every night. Like Morgan Frost. It was very funny. We're talking about it and he ends up scoring, which is funny. That might be the thing he's best at because he scored a few of those goals, like getting under guys, kind of getting leverage and using that to be a net front presence. And listen, he's got like 8 goals this year. He's not doing it consistently. But what's he do well? What is the thing, the consistent skill of his that makes us think that we need to see more of him that he can harness. Like,
I know what his
if he just keeps doing this thing.
It's infuriating John Tortorella.
Really, I think John Tortorella has to be over it at this point.
He's absolutely over it.
You can't even be frustrated or mad at him because it's who he is.
Like the dog keeps going to the bathroom inside. I don't know what to do about it.
Yeah, like it's really like he's been here. He's played as many games under John Tortorella as anyone on this roster. We know what Morgan Frost is. Other than we don't have anyone else to fill the spot because they sent Jet Luchenko back and we don't really have anyone with offensive upside. I would argue what is Morgan Frost's, but he's supposed to have offensive upside. But
he's definitely not defensive, that's for sure.
Yeah, what are we waiting for to see from Morgan Frost to see if he can somehow be what? Like, he's never shown us anything other than half a point a game guy, and he's not even that this year. He needs a contract. Do we want to give that to him? Then what's the point?
He is 100% destined to be a def player on a pretty good team, like a Colorado or a Tampa Bay or something. He seems like a great Tampa Bay.
Go be on Tampa's second power play. Go be on Colorado's second power play. He doesn't need to be on the team I watch every night.
And he shouldn't. I just don't think at this point he's the kind of player who should be like a top 6 forward on a team in general, but especially not on a team that needs him to be a number 1 center. Like, he's never going to get a better opportunity to show he's like a dude, to show he can be a top center. This is it. And he's not doing it remotely. Like, he's got Michkov, he's got Konechny, he's got, he's got Tippett. He's got talent in there, and he hasn't done it.
You know who definitely has talent? It's Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat writer. It is Charlie O'Connor coming to us live from the Wells Fargo Center after that just super entertaining game we watched tonight, Chuck. Before we get into my stuff, what are your thoughts on the game and standout comments from the post-game pressers?
Yeah, it was just a clunker. I mean, this is just a bad game. And the thing about this game that makes it tough to, I guess, isolate is that they're obviously on this run where they've lost a bunch of games in a row. They haven't won a game yet in 2025. So it feels appropriate to kind of ball them all together into one bad run of play. And I don't quite think that's the right way to look at it. And that was the point that John Tortorella made on multiple occasions during his post-game presser. He basically, his quote, which is going to be my quote of the night in my article, is, look, we've been playing some real good hockey. Tonight we sucked. And I think that's the accurate way to look at it, is that, yeah, they've been losing games. Yeah, they're on a losing streak. But I don't think in either one of those Tampa games they played poorly. I thought they outplayed them in both those games. They just didn't get the win. Goaltending, not coming through when you need to in terms of finishing, special teams. You can point out a lot of reasons, but those were games that they played well enough to win. They just didn't win. This was a game where they in no way, shape, or form played well enough to win. They played terribly, really, from the opening faceoff, at the very least, like the third shift of the game. And the rest of the game, they were just plain bad. And I'm not going to bury them for one clunker, even though I suspect a lot of people will be willing to bury them because they've lost a bunch of games in a row. Because this is the first game I've seen in a while where the process was awful. I mean, I just finished writing an article about how the goaltending is the main reason why. I thought Sam Ersson was fine tonight. I don't think he was like amazing, but I thought this was a game where, none of those 3 goals I pin on Sam Ersson. None of them. I don't think any of them are weak. You had 2 that were on the rush where you have a guy left wide open in front. On one of them, he gets a rebound, and then the other goal is a 3-on-1. Not going to pin any of those goals on Sam Ersson. This was a game where it was the defense. The defense let the goalie down. The offense didn't show up. The team just didn't show up. They had a bad game. And I'm not going to kill them for it because they haven't had a lot of these kinds of games over the last couple weeks, despite the fact that they've lost a bunch. But this one was ugly. They played terribly.
Well, that's objective Charlie O'Connor coming in with some logic and reason to this one. Now, we've tried to separate it. Like, the way they've lost previously is not kind of a reflection of what happened tonight. But what I'm frustrated with tonight, Chuck, is we have been discussing how long until like the dam breaks. Like, okay, skaters playing well, goalies letting them down, but eventually, like, it's going to cave in. Like, you're gonna just be demoralized. You're gonna have some of these games that are clunkers. Do you think this game is more a case of the Stars are a Stanley Cup contender. They're so much better, or this is the beginning of momentum might be trending down.
It's a reasonable question, and it is something that I worry about. I've mentioned this on the show a bunch of times over the last week, that I do worry about the process faltering because of frustration. I will say I asked Morgan Frost that question, and I asked John Tortorella that question after the game, because it's something I'm very interested in. And Frost basically said no, he just thinks they didn't have it on this night. And Tortorella straight up said, because he's the one who said this morning, he said that. He said, one thing I'm very worried about is guys are not getting the results, and eventually the structure falls off because guys just stop believing that they're going to get good results by doing the right things. I asked him, did he think that's what happened in this game? And he straight up said no. He just said, look, I just think we played poorly. I wish I could tell you why we played poorly, but sometimes these kinds of games happen, and until it happens a few games in a row, and I'm speaking now for myself, not Tortorella, I'm not going to worry that that's what's happening because of what I would see as a one-off. Now, if they go out against Anaheim and play terribly in a game where they should be amped, because trust me, the crowd's going to be amped in that one. I can tell you that. There was a lot of people that bought tickets to that game who are going to be real, real loud. And then they go out and they play badly in that game. Then they play badly against Florida on Monday. That's another real tough team, obviously. Then you start wondering, okay, start to roll down the hill in a bad way. Is this now picking up speed and they're starting to lose their structure and what was making them play well overall, despite the fact that the results weren't there? Yeah, then I'll get worried. For now, I'm willing to give them this one. And I know I understand most fans probably won't be, because they're looking at the win-loss record and they're saying, why are you cutting them some slack? It's because I really don't think they were playing that bad. This game, they played terribly. If they play terribly on Saturday again, and then they play terribly on Monday again, then yeah, I'm going to start thinking maybe the frustration's getting to them. But right now, I'm not quite there. And I wouldn't say I love the answers I got, but I came away from the answers I got to that question when I asked Frost and when I asked Tortorella feeling better that isn't what's going on. At least that's not what happened tonight. Now, depending upon how you're feeling about the Flyers, you might not believe them, but I feel pretty good that I don't think that was what happened tonight. I think this is just a bad game. Teams have bad games sometimes.
Now, Charlie, just how ashamed would Mr. Snider be, however, in tonight's effort?
Oh, he would have been livid. I mean, it is embarrassing in that sense, because this is the Ed Snider Legacy game. You know, this is obviously something that the Keith Jones, Danny Briere organization, they're trying to make it abundantly clear that they very much respect and appreciate and honor Mr. Snider. That's a big deal to them, which makes it a big deal to the fans, because it's like, this is the Ed Snider night, and the Flyers completely lay an egg. Now, I don't think there's any correlation here. I don't think this was like, well, let's give the middle finger to Mr. Snider. Like, no.
An egg for Mr. Snider.
They just played poorly, and it happened to be on Ed Snider Legacy game night. That said, I understand why the fans are more angry that it happened on Ed Snider Legacy night. I also suspect that there are a lot of fans who would have been angry regardless. If this was just like, Dollar Dog night, they would have been equally as mad. It's just they wouldn't have the Ed Snider thing to point to express their disdain. You did it on Mr. Snider's night. Like, you would have been just as mad if they would have done it on, I don't know, Pearl Jam night.
Well, that's a middle finger to Kelly Hinkle.
Yeah, that would offend Kelly just as much. No, it is a classic. Oh, we got something to bury them over. Like, if this was more of a talk radio show than it is.
Well, hey, Bill, what do you think about this?
That would be
555 PHLY.
Yeah, that would be absolutely the topic. Charlie, I thought Matvei Michkov, despite not registering a point in the last game against the Maple Leafs, it was one of his best efforts of the season. Just creating scoring chances, shots on goal, moving in the offensive zone, hustle, all of it. He was everywhere. Tonight, he plays 16 minutes, 2 shots on goal, -3. Is this kind of just part of what we've been talking about? Like, they're trying to get him through this real packed part of the schedule, and some nights he's going to have it, sometimes he's not?
It might be that simple. He was bad tonight, and there haven't been many games where I would say, like, there have been games where he's been invisible, where I would say that he didn't pop. This game, he was bad. That pass, and look, I am all for giving him a long leash in the offensive zone to take risks, to make plays with the puck, because he has such great vision. He's such a talented player. That pass he tried to thread across the ice to Owen Tippett, like, that's a stupid pass. That is a dumb pass to try to make. He tries to go across basically 3 Dallas Stars. It's such a low percentage play. It obviously gets picked off, and then it sends them down the other way, going on a 3-on-1. They score. Those are the kinds of plays where, look, I don't care if you're Connor McDavid, you don't make that play. Like, you're not getting that pass through. And look, he's a skilled player. He's going to make mistakes like that sometimes. He'll probably make fewer and fewer of them as he gets older. But it was a bad game. He played a bad game. It's a bummer because he played such a good game 2 nights ago, and you're thinking maybe he can build on that. He's a 20-year-old rookie. These are growing pains. I'm still not worried about Matvei Michkov, but I can say with honesty that this was one of the worst games I've seen him play this year. I truly believe that. He made bad decisions with the puck. He got knocked off the puck. He just wasn't effective. And then he also made actively poor plays that, sent the other team going the other direction.
Yeah, credited with 5 giveaways, and that's, listen, the way the NHL tracks giveaways and takeaways. He might have had 10, he might have had 1, but, like, that's a ton for one game. When the next, there's a couple of guys with 2, and mostly 1 or 0. 5 is a whole lot, especially when it's being scored at home. The headline tonight, they sucked. I don't know if there's much else to even talk to you about, Charlie. Do you have anything that you saw in this game that you think is, like, important to mention before we get to 3 stars?
Not really. The fans did not hesitate to express their displeasure. No. John Tortorella straight up said, like, look, I'm paying attention to my team. We didn't play well. Morgan Frost actually brought it up unprompted, so it clearly bothered the players. He said, it's not fun, hearing the fans boo, but, we weren't playing well, so I get it. But when a player brings it up unprompted, you can tell it bothered him. It wasn't like somebody asked, so what did it feel like to have the fans boo you? And then he's like, then the player will just come up with some cliched answer. The fact that Frost brought it up on his own, it was clearly a topic of conversation on the bench and in the locker room. And quite frankly, and I'm not like you after the bad years where you're like, yeah, get Tortorella in there to make them miserable. But honestly, this was the kind of game where, like, yeah, you deserve to get booed. You played real bad. It was the big night for the fans. Some fans were here to celebrate Ed Snider, and you laid an egg. And I don't think it's that the fans hate the Flyers. It's that they hate it the way they played tonight. They played a lifeless game, and they got booed because they deserve to get booed. That's Philadelphia.
The fans hate spending hundreds of dollars to watch a game that the final score could have been 10 more. For 40 minutes, the Flyers did not play hockey. They had every right to boo that effort tonight. They've played well and lost recently. That is so far from what happened tonight. The boos were a fraction of what they deserved for that effort, but maybe it's a one-off like Charlie thinks it could be. Or maybe it's going the other way. We'll just have to wait and see. So without further ado, it is time for Charlie O'Connor's 3 stars of the game. Chuck, good luck with this one. Hit us with star number 3.
Yeah, I mean, this will be pretty quick because there are no Flyers in this list. I actually thought about putting Ersson on there to make a point because it's like, hey, this wasn't his fault. But it's not like he played amazing. He just didn't play.
He just didn't suck.
He wasn't his fault that the team let him down. 3rd star, I'll give it to Maverick Bourque. He scores that opening goal, and that really was the turning point of the game. That was, in retrospect, the moment when we all should have realized, they just don't got it tonight. They're just not playing well. He scores that opening goal, and Dallas pretty much carried the play from there, so he's 3rd star.
All right, time for star number 2.
Star number 2, Miro Heiskanen. Man, he's good. He's so freaking good. He gets the empty net goal. Like, obviously, it's a nice little distant shot, whatever. But you watch him play, and he just controls the game so well. It's a joy to watch him. Like, he's probably one of my favorite players to watch in the league, just in terms of the subtleties of his game, the way he moves the puck, the way he thinks the game, his positioning. Like, he is just such a detail-oriented player. He gets the goal on the empty netter, but I thought he was one of the, if not the best player on the ice in this game. Easy choice for 2nd star.
Yeah, the last couple of years, he started to put up bigger offensive numbers. He's not Quinn Hughes or Cale Makar in that way, but you're starting to see that argument, hey, we need 2 different defenseman awards, and I feel like he's a big part of it. Points have been hard to come by for him this year. Dallas not quite having like the big offensive years that maybe you expect out of a cup contender, but he is. When you talk about killing plays, he does it. When controlling the pace, he's really freaking good. And that shot was dope. Like that was a hell of a goal.
Yeah, it was just like, I'm not even mad. I'm impressed.
That was a pretty impressive empty netter. All right, Chuck, star number 1.
Yeah, star number 1, I guess I'll go with Rupe Hintz. He's another really good player. He gets a goal, strong underlying metrics. This is just a really good team.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the game that we should have gotten between these two teams last year when the Flyers, just for whatever reason, decided they were going to look like a cup contender for one night and blew the doors off the Stars. This is kind of what I expected going into that game last year, and this is the game I expected in 2024. Dallas is real good, man, and the Flyers are the Flyers, and Rupe Hintz is a real good player. And
the Flyers are the Flyers.
He would easily be the best center on the Flyers. It wouldn't even be a contest. First star of the game, Rupe Hintz.
How far down their depth chart would we have to go? Never mind. All right, Charlie. Thank you very much for joining us, Chuck. We will hang out at the on Saturday in the suite for the takeover. So everyone who's coming out, get ready to hang out with me and Charlie and Kelly. It's going to be a great time. I will see you then, my friend.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, guys.
All right. That is Charlie O'Connor, Philadelphia's #1 beat writer, coming to us from the Wells Fargo Center after the ass kicking that the Flyers took. And we're going to get more into this game, more on some of the stuff we were talking about. Definitely want to discuss Sam Ersson and the goalies. But first, I got to tell you about Rothman Orthopedics. If you've got aching joints or cramping hands or your back's out of whack, Rothman's got you. At Rothman Orthopedics, they've been practicing specialized care. It has been their passion for over 50 years. Their mission, it's high-quality, compassionate, and affordable care rooted in research leading to new treatments and better outcomes. Each Rothman doc is laser-focused on their specialty, whether it's hip, knee, spine, you name it. They have a team for each body part right in your backyard so you can get back to what you specialize in because they specialize in you. Rothman Orthopedics, specializing in orthopedics in you. Visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY to learn more and make an appointment today. While we're here, we got to talk about our presenting sponsor, our friends at Bet365. And boy, do they love me. I had that Owen Tippett anytime goal tonight. It did not come to fruition. It really, Steve and I were talking during the game, really looked like the Stars remembered how Tippett torched them last year, and they were all over him, taking away his time and space. He did not have the game I expected to when I bet his anytime goal, but I've been making all my bets this season, the futures, the props, the game bets, whatever it is, I've been making them at the Bet365 Sportsbook, and I think you'll love it too. I've lost the disclaimer, so I'm vamping now. Where did it go?
I will say they really did shut down Owen Tippett tonight, and my guy Tyson Forrester didn't come through either, like we expected him to. So, just the Stars did not want to, help the good people out with their bets at Bet365 tonight.
Oh, it appears to have changed. We have an open account offer guaranteed from tonight through the 20th of of this month. Breaking news from Bet365. New customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you bet just $5. Sign up, use code PHLY365, deposit $10, place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in PA. If you or someone who has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right. So I'm going to get back to some of these guys who've been here all 3 years before we get into the goalie. Scott Laughton. We know they love Scott Laughton. I like him. I don't think they're going to trade him.
First line left wing, Scott Laughton.
Yeah. But you see him coming up in rumors again. We had this from Darren Dreger on Insider Trading the other day. He's discussing potential targets for the Leafs. He named some higher end guys, but we know the Leafs cap situation. It's money in, money out. How can they really afford they ain't getting any of the Canucks centers, No. That's not happening. So Darren Dreger said Scott Laughton is out there again, but the Flyers want a first-round draft pick in return, so maybe that's a stretch. Michael Granlund's name's out there, Yanni Gourde, Nick Bjugstad. I'll tell you this.
The price of leadership.
Yeah. Brad Treliving's whiteboard is probably jammed with more affordable centers. I don't think they're going to trade Scott Laughton, and I don't think that in itself is a big deal. Like, you have to make other tough decisions then. Like, okay, then we're going to have to trade some guys. But you see him coming up, and if it's not a first-round pick, but it's something that you think can help you, I don't see why you wouldn't at least consider it at this point, Steve.
I don't understand it. I like Scott Laughton.
I understand it.
He's a great character guy. Well, I do understand it, right?
It's just, I disagree, but I get it.
I think that's the one thing I'd really, I agree with the front office on a lot of the moves they've made as far as like this rebuild or rework or whatever you want to call it. Like, they've made a lot of good moves in the past couple of years in that regard. Scott Laughton is one big fan of the guy. I think he's a great character guy. He's a great leader on this team, but like, he's not like a key part of Flyers 2.0 or whatever you're calling the next good Flyers team. Like, he just isn't. I like him, but like, it doesn't make any sense to really hold on to this asset.
And so much to me, like, whether it's Risto, whether it's Farabee, Frost, Laughton, you got to open up roster spots for these like great players that they want to acquire, draft, trade for, sign in free agency, whatever it is. You do have to have like a place for them to go. Like, we talked, in pregame about, how the Stars are kind of alternate universe Flyers and like basically the exact same assets for several years, and they turned it into being a cup contender. The Flyers are rebuilding. But, in that 2017 draft, when the Flyers go and get back into the first round to ultimately draft Morgan Frost, they trade Braden Shen to do it. Why? Because Ron Hextall says Nolan Patrick's a center. We have Claude Giroux. We have Sean Couturier. Where the hell is Nolan Patrick going to play? Let's trade Braden Shen. And then to have depth down the road at the position, let's draft Morgan Frost. Like, we can all talk about how it worked with Nolan Patrick and everything, but the thought process of they have to go somewhere.
I agree with the thought process there.
Some of these guys need to be moved just so you have a place for some of these other dudes to at least even get a shot. Maybe no one in the organization right now is the answer, but we know that these dudes aren't.
Yeah, and he's not a center anymore.
Yeah, and he's not a center.
Big thing with the Flyers roster spots is centers, and he's not a center. He's a wing at this point. He's just not a center. And that's what they need. They have wings that can move up into those spots, but not centers. And it's the same argument on defense, right? When you talk about trading Rasmus Ristolainen at this point, it's not necessarily because like, oh, we urgently need to move on from Rasmus Ristolainen. Number one, it's because his stock has risen dramatically in the past year or two. And the other reason is you do want to make room for these guys that are coming up. We're seeing the problem already with Emil Andrae. Emil Andrae should be on the Flyers right now. Yeah. Plain and simple. And then you've got Bonk in the pipeline. Bonk is going to come up in the next year or two, right? And you want to have a spot for Bonk. And they do have a little bit, not a huge logjam back there, but they have a little bit of a logjam. And the same thing with the wing right now. There's a lot of guys on the wing, prospective guys on the wing coming up. So, yeah, Scott Laughton, I like him, and you do need somebody to play the fourth line. But, like, if you're getting, like, a good second-round pick or a nice asset, or you can work him into a deal for somebody, like, I see no reason to not do it.
The last guy I want to talk about on this list, Sean Couturier. Now, it is what it is. They can't trade him. He makes way too much money. He's got the no-move clause, way too much term left. So that's not the answer with Scott Laughton. And I've looked into it. It's a ton of signing bonuses. It's going to be a few years before you can even consider buying him out. But he played 12 minutes tonight. I think it was like 12-14 in the box score. 12 minutes, 14 seconds. Fewest amongst the forwards. Do we need, like, to evaluate Sean Couturier? Like, hopefully he can get healthy and be better through second halves of seasons and give us maybe what he gave us in the first half last year. But like, he's going to be here, and we know it because of the contract situation, and we've kind of figured out what he is. Maybe he can get a little healthier and get a little more spring in his step, but does he need to play every single night? I know it was a huge deal last year when they scratched him. It was a month after they named him captain, and maybe you don't want to make a habit of scratching your captain, but looking to opening up roster spots before the deadline, like, give this team a spark of something. Do we need Sean Couturier every night? If for no other reason, then this team stinks. They're not making the playoffs. He's aging. Clearly, his body is breaking down. maybe we save his legs for a year or two from now when the playoffs are more realistic.
As somebody who's aging and his body is breaking down, I can relate to that. So, yeah, I love rest. I think Sean Couturier should rest too. Okay, let's look over at basketball over here, right? Where the Sixers are resting Joel Embiid, probably too much. But you know what? They care about the playoffs. They care about him getting in there. He's an older player. No, not as maybe Sean Couturier.
I mean, he has the body of a 50-year-old.
He has the body of a 50-year-old for sure. But, regardless, like, it's a controversial thing that happens in other sports at this point with rest, but like,
and it's like a 0% chance of ever happening in hockey.
But like, it's just, I think it should.
If he's
like, I think especially for Sean Couturier, because I 100% believe with the scratching last year because he was tired, he wasn't used to the schedule, he wasn't used to the vigor being back in the game.
He hasn't played a full season, whether it's because of injury or because of pandemic shortened seasons. He hasn't played in an 82 game year since he was 26.
Yeah.
He's 32.
He can't handle the rigorous schedule anymore.
It's been a long time. I just...
Rest him.
Yeah, I don't...
He's old. Let him rest. If he just wants to take a little nap in his rocking chair,
If he is what the coach is using him as, a 12-minute-a-night fourth liner, his roster spot on a nightly basis should be in doubt. Like,
I agree.
I don't know if they want to make a habit of scratching him. Maybe it's bad for the room, bad for the culture, but like, get other guys a shot.
Yeah.
And to your point, like Scott Laughton, not a center, but you could put him in that role instead of Coots and not like open up one of those wing spots for one of your young wingers to get in who haven't been able to. It's just a very frustrating thing right now.
Have we considered co-captains?
Yeah.
Who cares? Just like rest him. Let him rest. Let him sleep.
I want to get to Ersson because it's his return from the injury he suffered. He didn't play the third period on New Year's Eve. We haven't seen him since then. Charlie said he doesn't really blame him for any of the goals. Neither do I. He was okay tonight. Now, his final line is not great. He stops 19 of 22 for an .864. Like, that's horrendous. But you look at the goals he gives up. There's the one empty net goal at the end. First goal, Drysdale makes a good defensive play with his stick to seemingly break up the rush. But the puck bounces right back to Dumba. He gets it in front. There's two stars waiting. I guess it was ultimately determined. Maverick Bork put it home.
Sure.
Morgan Frost did very little on the back check to try to nullify anyone in front. He was just kind of there. They score. Second goal, Ersson makes the first save right out in front. Drysdale unable to move Hintz whatsoever, has no positioning. Hintz puts home the zone rebound, and then he does make Ersson like those huge saves and that crazy thing we talked about in like early in the second period. Flyers trapped on defense, Tippett no stick. Everyone's been out there for like 4 minutes or something. He saves them. And then there's just a 3-on-1 snipe by Wyatt Johnston. Like, it's a 3-on-1, and Wyatt Johnston sniped it to make it 3-0 halfway through the third. Like,
that was just a great shot.
Yeah. So, like,
nothing you can do about that.
While it's very funny that everything has reversed roles over, in this game where skaters have been good, goalies have been terrible tonight. I can't blame the goalies. I can't blame Sam Ersson. He had zero help.
It was
none whatsoever.
A fine game from Ersson. Like, do you need more? Sure. But like, he did keep them in the game. The fact that they were even within distance of tying this game up towards the end is a bit of a miracle. And again, he wasn't lights out by any means, but like, he was fine. If he plays like this, they'll win some games for the rest of the season. But the biggest thing, as we were saying earlier, is he needs to stay healthy. Sam Ersson needs to be healthy. And we can't rely on him for that right now.
And in terms of like, I'm trying to advocate for figuring out somehow to spark this lineup. Yes, Charlie's right. The skaters haven't been bad. Tonight was a clunker. Maybe it's a one-off. As good as they've been in front of the goalies and they've been letting them down, this 4-game losing streak started at Vegas. They scored 2 goals.
Yeah.
Then they go to the Maple Leafs, score 2 goals. Home against the Leafs, score 2 goals. Tonight, scored 1 goal. They've been playing well.
Yeah.
Also, there's several tiers to go before it's like, oh, they've been really good. Now, they've been fine. They've been keeping themselves in these games against better teams. But you need to. This isn't a league you can win scoring 1 or 2 goals. I know in December they had a nice little run of offense, but right now in this losing streak, as well as the skaters have played before tonight, they ain't scoring. And whether it's Lycksell or Anthony Richard or Samu Tuamala or whoever, maybe you can just get a little offensive spark to give people something to cheer about.
I love the Richard speed. Something like that would be great because this, again, in classic Flyers fashion, is not a very fast team. You know, like there are fast guys. Tippett's very fast. I know Paling's got some speed, and TK's got some speed too. But like Richard is like lightning fast. He's great out there. And Lycksell, like that's a guy who can bring like, you know, not necessarily speed per se, but like he's a big boy. Like he's got some presence out there, you know. I would love some big bodies. I just want to change a pace right now because, as you were saying before, they're throwing the same guys out there. And what's the old WIP caller quote with Andy Reid? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over.
Yeah, if you've never heard, there's few things that make me cringe more than people saying, just because, like, I remember at one point...
I'm an amateur psychiatrist, Angelo. I'll hang up and listen.
I remember at one point someone said it, like, in a press conference question to Howie, and he goes, "Oh, never heard that one before." Like, I was like, yes, finally. So, like, just driving us nuts. But, all right, a few minutes left here. You know what time it is. It's time for Super Chats. It looks like we have 3 right now. Let's hit this first one here from Corey. Says, "I'm trying to be patient with the rebuild, but I'm legit pissed tonight. A pathetic performance all around. The team played bad and should feel bad." No, we will see. Like, it's all conjecture right now. Oh, this could be the start of them going downhill. They have been crushed by, as we talked about in pregame, the league's worst goaltending, their team save percentage right now. No team has finished that bad since 1993-94, which was like that's maybe the beginning of the 90s, like the first trap year, you know?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It's horrible.
To put that in perspective, folks, that's Joe Carter, Mitch Williams territory.
Yes, exactly. Like, that happened that year.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. The baseball strike.
It has been 30 years since the goaltending has been this bad. A team has had this bad of goaltending. Maybe this is a one-off, but you just see a night like tonight and go, oh, and how long can they keep it up? This might be the start of them playing poorly. And you look, like I said, those 15 games now left before the Four Nations break. The schedule's real hard.
Yeah, and it's hard to keep your motors up every night, especially when you're not getting any help on the back end like they've been.
Yeah, it's rough right now, and I'm hoping they can get back to playing a little better in front of the goalies because the game tonight was unwatchable. I don't want it to go this way, but man, this is a thing that I've been saying I think is coming, and we saw it tonight. We'll see if it carries over to Anaheim.
I will say this. I do think they felt bad, Corey, per Charlie's quotes from Morgan Frost, because they heard you loud and clear, Flyers fans. They heard you loud and clear tonight with those boo birds.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get to this one from Gary B. He says, "I was at the game today. I'm convinced bad goalies are the only reason they're still failing. They're still falling into the rebuild category. Looking forward to Saturday night." They just don't. You look at what Dallas is throwing out there at, like
they shouldn't have had a chance in the game to start with. But yeah,
the Flyers have some good pieces, but they don't have, outside of hopefully what Michkov becomes, anything close to what they need to be a cup contender. And before we go any further, I want to say we appreciate those of you watching on TV. Head over to allphly.com for more of the show. Yeah, I like a lot of the pieces. Michkov is hopefully the beginning of those guys.
Needs a great piece.
Yeah. Hopefully he ages the way they think the way they've bet he's going to based on the contract. Tippett, he has another level to get to, but he's a nice player. Tyson Forster, like the way he's developing. Noah Cates carving out a role for himself.
Cam York,
hopefully turns into something.
I like him.
I like him. I just don't.
Solid.
I don't know what he is.
Yeah, I don't know what he is.
I don't have any idea.
But like, I have more of an idea of what he is than say a Morgan Frost.
Yeah. Well, I think I know exactly what Morgan Frost is.
I agree there.
He's a half a point a game player on a nice depth a nice depth piece. I don't care to have him around.
Cam York is a piece I can see on this team in 5 years.
I can see it.
Morgan Frost is a team or a guy. Again, I just don't see him on the next good Flyers team.
We can identify what they need and be like, all right, they need this, this, and this. It's also the hardest things to get. They need a 1C who's as good or better than Matvei Michkov, and they need a first pair defenseman who maybe not a Norris guy, but like that next tier down at least, you know?
They need a very good.
And maybe it's Bjarnason. Maybe it's Zavragin. Maybe Ersson turns it around. Maybe Kolzov gets better. They don't have a goalie. Like 1C, 1D, 1G. The 3 elements you need to win a Stanley Cup, they do not have.
Now, Bill, have they considered Invincible-style open tryouts for goaltender in 1C?
I honestly, what's it going to get? Worse?
What's it going to get? Worse? I mean, guys can wear capes, show up. It's going to be great PR. Let's do it.
All right, let's hit this next. I would absolutely show up to that. I would try to fight. Another one from Gary B. Stankoven being one of my favorite players in the league. I hate that he plays for Dallas. Let's go Flyers. Yeah, I liked it. Was really cool seeing him like basically step into the league in the playoffs last year. That's why he was my my Calder pick. One, because I'm trying to win the competition with Charlie and Kelly, so you don't just go with what they're going to go with.
Sure.
Find some differences. And 2, I always say, once you've played in the Stanley Cup playoffs, you have now played hockey at the highest level. Like, there's nothing above, I guess maybe like best on best Olympics, but there's like nothing in the NHL, the best league in the world, above the Stanley Cup playoffs. Stankoven comes in, and he's like 1 game short last year in the regular season of not qualifying. I think he played 24 games or something, and you need 25. He's not a rookie. Yeah. But as we're seeing, like, and I think it gives me, because I really like him, and I really believe in him, and the Stars are great at developing these guys. He's been ice cold for like a month, maybe more. These things happen to rookies. So it's not just Matvei Michkov, you know, like take a step back and I can, all right, this other guy I believe in, he's also cold. These things happen. Yeah.
Namaste.
All right. And this last one from Obi-Wan. Let's see here. Hey, Bill.
Hey.
Hey.
Hey, Bill.
Hey,
Hope
Obi.
you're doing good.
What's up, Obi? How are you? All right.
Hey.
All right. That is all the time we have for you on PHLY Flyers Postgame, presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. We are off tomorrow. We'll be back with pre- and postgame for Saturday's outstanding night. It's going to be such a fun night. I don't know if the team's going to show up or not, but they freaking better, because the fans are amped for this one. We have the Sweet Takeover. I will be on pregame. It's going to be Steve and Tyler getting you through postgame, because I'm going to get hammered in the suite. I'm such a professional.
Yeah, that's why you're the best in the business.
Yeah.
I just wanted you to know, I've heard that Cutter Gautier's had this one circled on his calendar for a while.
Yeah, he was invisible in their last meeting that he had circled. Then he scores the next night. It was like, oh, maybe you know what? As someone whose days all run together and you never know what the date is, maybe he just messed it up. He
could have missed it. That's for sure. Yeah.
All right. Make sure you subscribe right here on the YouTube page so you never miss a live show. Hit that reminder bell so you get those notifications. Follow us on Twitter at PHLY_Flyers. And follow the podcast. Wherever you get those, just search PHLY Flyers. And check out Flyperbole too. Steve's been doing a great job over there at Broad Street Hockey. All right. That's it. I'm Bill Matz. That's Steve Jaco. Until next time, let's go Flyers, I guess.
We all silly like the mayor.